So me and Oliver here, who is a client from our previous retreat, I invited him here because I really like the way he describes his ayahuasca experience, which is pretty amazing. Like whenever I come to explain what I felt, it just kind of sounds like it was nice and it was transformative, but I'm always struggling to find words that are like deep and descriptive, and like he seems to know those words. So I invited him here to stay a couple of days after the retreat, so we can just create some content and chat to one another. Maybe something valuable will come out that will benefit you watching that on the other side. So we were just talking here, same setup, just looking in the other direction. And I said, like, why don't we capture it? We were talking about my story, like how I started, and I cannot just sit and talk to camera alone. But when somebody's asking me those questions and when we go back and forth, then it can really work. So how? No, that's the best start. Let's start with you. Like, why are you here? How did you end up here? And what happened to you in the last week?
How I ended up here is actually quite an interesting story in itself. I came to to start at the very beginning. I always had this like deep desire to take ayahuasca from when I started traveling at the beginning of 2020 before the pandemic. I came to South America specifically because I wanted to take my sort of spiritual seeking to another level, and thinking that ayahuasca was going to help that. Long story short, it didn't happen. Things got in the way, borders got closed, and I came back to South America this time kind of on a bit of an impromptu decision. I was travelling with my girlfriend in Turkey at the time, and there was a moment that I remember, that we'll both remember very clearly, and we were sat having a few drinks on a beach in Fatih, and as I'd had a few drinks, I loosened up and got more in touch with my emotions, and was speaking about my emotions. And the more honest I became with her and myself, I realised like the depth of my depression. Like I was really sort of in a low place, and I'd been in a low place for a while. And it was something that I hadn't really, it was like, even the word depression was like a dirty word. It was almost like something to be ashamed of. Like I would never say it out loud. I would never sort of sit down and look someone in the eye and honestly say, listen, I'm struggling, I've got depression, and maybe there was a lot of self-denial as well, but this moment I was able to get in touch with it, and it was like, shit, you know what, things are actually really bad for me, like, and it made no sense because I've got a good life, I've got a girlfriend who loves me, I've got a beautiful family, I'm fortunate enough to be able to travel around and enjoy myself, so it's like, why would I be depressed? Like,
if I can interrupt you for a second.
Of course.
You just said exactly the same thing that brought me back to ayahuasca, because I already tried it before, I was here in this beautiful paradise of a place. I don't know if you can see, but we're in the outskirts of the Medellin, and the weather here is amazing. It's a paradise. I have a beautiful wife, and at that moment she was pregnant with our first son. Things are good, I had enough income to sort of pay for everything and not have to work. And it's a dream come true. But I was depressed. I was like, I had this moment, and I was like, am I depressed? Like, why am I feeling so bad emotionally? Like, same thing. Like, there is no reason.
Yeah, and that's the confusing thing. It's like, it rationally, it doesn't make any rational sense. Like, I've got all these things that are supposed to be the good life and the sort of the keys for happiness, and it sounds like we've experienced the exact same thing.
I have an idea why this happens. So you, as far as I understand, you also have a source of passive income, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have this struggle that most people have to just barely survive.
Fortunately,
and when you come to this point where you don't have to barely survive, and you start asking questions, like, not like, what am I going to eat tomorrow, but like, why am I here, and what is it all about? This is where it kicks in. It's like you have no distractions in the form of work to just face yourself.
Exactly.
So
it can be a blessing and a curse.
You're like, something is wrong.
Exactly.
So what happened after that moment?
it was a moment that in that moment of just exposing myself there, it was like, it was realising how bad it was. It was like, something has to change, and I was like, I know what I need to do. I need to go to Peru. I need to take ayahuasca. It just came into my head, and like, it wasn't a new idea, but maybe something deep down knew that that's what I needed to do. And so I sort of got the wheels moving pretty quick. I booked a flight to Peru, and within 4 weeks we'd gone home. Well, we'd gone back to England, and we were flying to Peru. We were both supposed to come together, but then we didn't, because my girlfriend realised how much she missed and needed to be at home with the family, because we'd been travelling for a while. And so I ended up coming on my own, and I had already in mind where I was going to go. I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to disrespect anyone or cast sort of negativity on anyone else's work, but I had a particular shaman who I knew I wanted to go and see, probably for the wrong reasons. Like, there was a podcaster who I was following who had a really transformative experience at this place. I didn't know personally anyone that had been to this place and drank, and that was kind of one of my rules, that wherever I drank I needed to know someone personally. So I kind of broke my rule in that regard. I went to this experience. It was my first time drinking ayahuasca, and first ceremony was interesting. It was my first time in a ceremony. It was interesting, but also kind of strange, like weird, like nothing like the ceremonies that we experience when you've got beautiful music and singing. This was like lots of like weird noises, like insect noises, lots of like throaty, like, I'm not going to try and recreate the noises because I'll fail, but it just put a funny vibe in the air. And one thing that's kind of relevant to the story is this was probably a bad omen in itself. Literally 2 minutes before we were about to drink ayahuasca for the first time in this first ceremony, there was some rustling outside. There was like a knock.
Sorry, we had to interrupt the recording because we had to move the venue to avoid the noise. You were saying something about the snake?
Yeah. So, long story short, I had a bad experience, and one of the factors of the bad experience was just before we had the first ceremony, there was a knock on the door, and we were asked if we wanted to see a really poisonous snake, in the shaman's words. And so I was like, yeah, why not? We're in the Amazon jungle, and expecting maybe there was one outside slithering through the grass that we could have a quick look at. And then this girl brings a 2 metre, thicker than my bicep, bushmaster snake that she's got on a rope with the head cut off, and it's sort of like bleeding onto the porch of the Maloka, and it's like just this, it's really shocking. I've never seen anything like that, and like one of the most poisonous snakes in the world apparently. So this is something that I had witnessed and was obviously in my consciousness, and I had this horrific experience on the second ceremony where I became convinced that I'd been poisoned by the snake, because I was having quite a sort of intense reaction. Like my vision was going funny, I was panicking, I was sweating, and it was a bad trip really, and I just wanted to get out of there, and I wasn't supported. I didn't feel at all supported by the shaman, so it was quite a sort of lonely, terrifying experience, and so much so that I chose to leave the retreat after that. It was a 7-day retreat, and I left after the second ceremony. Yeah, it wasn't a nice experience. It left me quite fearful, very fearful of going back to ayahuasca, and I knew that I had to go back for my own benefit, for my own growth, because in the first ceremony I could see that the medicine was doing what I needed. It was really making me confront my ego and my mental patterns, and so it's what I wanted out of the experience. And as synchronicity would have it, as soon as I left that experience, I got back to Iquitos, got to my hostel, checked into my room, and there was only one other guy in the room, and it was my now good friend Mikhail from Poland, who was coming to yourself for a retreat. And
Mikhail, if you're watching,
yeah,
thank you. Mikhail is a client or a patient, what would be the right word, visitor. From about 7 months ago, he came, and since then, whenever he travels anywhere, he keeps sending us people, and you're one of them.
I'm one of them. Yeah,
he's our messenger, even though I never asked him for it. So
yeah, he was my guide.
Thank you, Mikhail.
You're the light in the darkness, and yeah, it was after a dark moment. It just felt so right. Like within 20 minutes of speaking to him about the experience, about your place and his last experience there, and he mentioned he'd been there and helped out. I'd sort of decided, booked and paid within 20 minutes. It just felt right. I had no doubts at all, which is not my last experience. I did have doubts, and they manifested, and it got the better of my experience, but that still did teach me some valuable lessons. So that's the gist of what brought me to ayahuasca, the specifics of what brought me to your place. And yeah,
very long-winded reply. As I warned you, he's very elaborate, this guy. So
maybe I'm too elaborate. Maybe
we need to work on that, finding the balance between beauty of the words and expression and being concise.
Exactly.
As well. But this is an experiment we're doing, so just for all of you to know. So you came to our retreat, and then you had your experience, but in the end, how you ended up here, right? In the short. So after every ceremony, and we do on average 5 ceremonies per every retreat. After every ceremony, we do word circles, and your revelations after every night, the things you were sharing, also the way you were sharing, were really impressive. I really liked the way you were expressing yourself. I told you several times you were very elaborate, and you said that it's something that nobody ever told you, and you kind of have issues about being like confident about your own talents, and like even like finding what is your gift. So you even wrote like a piece of sort of poetry. Which we might read sometime in one of our further sessions, because we're planning to do a few of those. It's kind of like a training for both of us to like get over the fear of camera, and for you to learn how to express your gift, because really, if it did not manifest itself yet in this video, you just be patient, guys, because
so much pressure.
He knows how to connect 2 words and make it sound amazing. So you came to our retreat, and that's from your journey and the way you're speaking. And then you said like, I want to find a place to stay in nature for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And I said, at first I did not connect to those, but then I was like, yeah, you can come and stay at our place, which is near the retreat we run, and we'll use those couple of days to just go through some thoughts, because at every word circle, millions of nuggets come out, and it's just amazing, very dense, deep conversation between 10-15 people. But whenever I come back home and I think I need to create some content to let other people understand what it's all about, I don't have any words. So hopefully with you and me together we can make it happen. So your ayahuasca experience, night by night, do you still remember more or less the progression, and like where did you start and where did you end, and how, and what's the progress between that traumatic experience in this ayahuasca retreat in Peru and where you are now?
I certainly remember the succession. Without my notebook, I won't remember all the details, but because it was so profound, it's definitely left its imprint on my mind. And as I said before, even that really negative experience was ironically exactly what I needed. It was a really valuable teacher, and ultimately it helped me realize that the thing that I was running away from was myself. the medicine was doing what it does best, which was illuminating the interior and shining a light on the darkness. And the darkness was so dark that I had to externalize it in this sort of delusion of being poisoned by a snake, and then try and escape that snake narrative that I'd created. So it was really this sort of case of projecting my own fear outwards and then running away from my own projections. And I literally did run away. I literally pretended I was going to the toilet and just ran. I was like, I can't be in here anymore. And I didn't go far, and I turned back around, but I ran physically and figuratively away from my own fear. And so this was something I came into the retreat to overcome, to understand, because I was left very confused. What was real, what wasn't real, what was mine, what wasn't mine. And so the first night was a powerful experience. It was not powerful in terms of like lucid visions, or you hear a lot about these really vivid images and stuff. There was none of that, but for me, what I wanted was more of an internal introspective experience of confronting my own ego and confronting my own mental patterns to find out what it was that was preventing me from living life to the fullest, what was holding me back in sort of every aspect of life, specifically socially and in terms of expression. And I also wanted some sort of guidance on my relationship and with my girlfriend Martina, and I wanted to get in touch with my heart, because I've always sort of been someone who struggles knowing what the true emotions are and being in touch with the heart. And so the journey was a progression towards that place, really. So I'll try and keep it as concise as possible. And on the first night, it brought up a lot of, I guess it scrubbed the bottom of the subconscious. It brought a lot of ideas up, it brought a lot of memories up, it brought a lot of people from the past up, and it brought a lot of doubts up. It was like, am I on the right path? Am I with the right person? Perhaps I should be going in a different direction. And this was something that I didn't like. It was something that I was resisting. And it was something that there was no resolution to on that first night, which, as it turns out, was a good thing, because it allowed me to contemplate that before the next ceremony, set my intentions for the next ceremony, and then seek the results. And the next ceremony shone further light on this problem. It was the next ceremony was a realization of how negative I was as a person, and that I create my own suffering, really, with my own negativity, with my own mental thought, my own patterns of thought, just in judging situations as being negative, just looking at them through a tinted lens. And for example, sort of like the mind will be going, oh, this isn't working, nothing's going to happen, this is rubbish, this is no good, I need more. Or so all these sort of nuances of like character, like aspects of greed, impatience, negativity, that were all sort of coming to the surface in this sort of this mental outburst. And there was a moment where I just sort of took I sort of like collected myself and was like, hang on a minute, the negativity is me. I've been looking for this negativity like outside, but it's me, it's this lens. My mind is the lens through which reality is perceived, and if this lens is just full of negativity, reality is also going to be full of negativity. And this was like a pivotal moment, because it then really sort of opened up the floodgates into realising a lot of my historic patterns and my behaviours and my actions, specifically with regards to my girlfriend, which was something that meant a lot to me, and I really wanted to understand why I was the way I was and why I'd done certain things. And it's like all these questions had the same answer, and it was an answer that I would have done anything not to face, including run away from ceremonies or run away from my girlfriend, or ultimately my pattern had been to run away from myself, to run away from the negativity, because the ego would do literally anything other than accept that it is the problem. And that was my sort of big moment of, okay, it's me, I am the problem. I can't blame this on anyone else, I can't blame this on any life circumstances, any traumas, any whatever. It's me. No one else is controlling my mind for me. Therefore, this has to just be owned. And it's at the moment that I started to own my own darkness that the healing then started to happen. It was like the more honest I was being with myself, the more the medicine was then giving me in terms of healing. And just, I mean, I can't even stress enough like how important this was to realise that me wanting to get away from my girlfriend was because I'd been projecting my own negativity onto her, and then not recognising that, thinking the negativity was like an intrinsic quality of hers, and then trying to run away from that negativity. It's almost comical because I'm literally creating the negativity that I'm trying to run away from. And so that was, yeah, I can vividly picture the page in my notebook where I wrote that down, because I knew how much that hurt my girlfriend over the time we'd been together. And
this is the ceremony 2 we're talking.
This is ceremony 2, yeah.
A few comments. First of all, I really like how Eldridge had his purpose. One of the guys from the groups to become a better husband to his fiancée, because he's going to be married on 10th. Easy to remember. Hope he invites me. And it kind of rubbed on you, and you got the inspiration from this. And it's really nice to see the group dynamics, right? Because we positively influence each other during the ceremony.
Yeah, that was a really inspiring intention of his, and it definitely was something that I wanted to incorporate. And
so night 3, how did it go?
Night 3 was a dark one. Night 3 was like symbolically and literally it was the last of the night ceremony. And so night 2 finished, and I was content. I was content that I'd finally figured out these doubts and confusions in my relationship, and that was one of the main things I wanted. So I was a happy customer at that point. It was like, so far my progress has been really like beneficial. It's exactly what I wanted. But there was also something else. There was a part of me that was saying, okay, that's great, you've done psychological work, you've figured out relationship stuff, but that's not everything. Like, there's more questions I've got with regards to the nature of reality, the darkness, what forces act on us, and sort of these personal, sort of almost philosophical inquiries about life and death. Although death wasn't on my mind at the time in terms of the inquiry, it turns out that was a big part of it. And so ceremony 3 is where I chose to drink a slightly higher dose, 1.5 cups, because I wanted to go deeper than this psychological level. And well, I guess it was still psychological but deeper, and that really got me down into the realms that I was scared to go, and that was like the realm of my own fear. And I was sort of sat there with my blindfold on, meditating into the experience and perceiving this sort of astral space, and it had like it's a weird one to describe, because it's like trying to describe space. It was like the feeling of space. It was like this sort of cold, vast expanse, but also lonely and quite scary, because it's like, well, who else is here? Like, and I think, although I can't be sure, this is just my sort of interpretation, I think that's like the mental space that I was perceiving, and there was this sort of looming presence there, like this negativity that I was quite confused about. I was thinking maybe it was the medicine, because there was some sort of vague geometric patterns and this sort of like droning noise, almost like insects, and I was thinking, okay, maybe this is a medicine. I shouldn't resist, and I should just go into the experience. And as I started to get closer, I started to feel more and more uncomfortable, and something told me that this isn't something I should go near, it's something I should back away from. And I'm trying to sort of remember consecutively how it happened, but it became apparent for one reason or another. I think it was the experience of having, well, I had my eyes closed, but I also had like a sleeping mask on, so there was no light, it was completely dark, but I was able to apprehend this mental space, but it was like boundaried. There was something blocking it, this negativity or presence, and for some reason it just sort of came to me like just this knowing with like absolute certainty that I'd been blinded or veiled by darkness or a shadow of some description. And that was kind of like a moment of like, it wasn't really like a happy moment, it was a realization, but it wasn't really a great one. It was like, oh shit, this is kind of like a helpless realization, like realizing that you've been trapped or cornered or whatever. And so this is something that I'd suspected from previous experiences, and then this really sort of confirmed it. It was being in like proverbial darkness, and then after that, once I realised that, then the negativity started to torment me. It started to play with me, and it became apparent that the negativity, when I say negativity, I'm not talking about the negativity of my patterns. It's almost like it was a negativity of like this darkness or shadow that was beyond me. And it's almost like that darkness plays with our own fears, and like our fears are like these prickly bits that it can grab a hold of. And for me, one of my deepest, darkest fears was dying of cancer, like my dad did from a young age. And it's something that had really sat there in the bottom of my mind, and it had really sort of weighed me down. But because I was so afraid of it, I'd pushed it down in my mind so far that I sort of didn't realise it existed. And I guess my analogy would be like when you leave like a jar of like muddy water for a while, all the dirt settles to the bottom, and it's like that's kind of the layers of the mind, and this medicine sort of stirred it all up and brought all this stuff to the top, and so it could be sort of observed and worked with. And so then it just got into these really sort of like dark thoughts, like convictions that I had cancer, convictions that I was dying, convictions that there was something eating me up from the inside. And that it was just a really, really sort of like, it was dark, it was unpleasant, but thankfully, and this is where the massive lesson of my negative experience from the last place kicked in, it was like, well, I know this darkness, and therefore I know I need to sit with it. I know that running away from it is not the right thing to do. I need to sit with it. So even though it was horribly dark inside, I was able to sit there reasonably still. And that's kind of where it got left. No, it didn't. I beg your pardon, it didn't get left there. That's where I thought it got left, and I was sat there like, okay, well, I don't want any more from this ceremony. I'm not going to expect the light to come. I'm just going to look forward to the day ceremonies and hope that the light comes then. But then, as I was sort of sat there, I went to the bathroom and I looked in the mirror, and I was kind of lost in the mirror for an unknown amount of time, just looking into my eyes and trying to recognise myself. But then as I was looking into my eyes, my face was looking unrecognisable. It was like the real me wasn't the face, it wasn't the body, it was something that I could apprehend, like deep in the eyes, like behind the eyes. That's where I actually was, not this body and this face that I had become confused into thinking was me. And so I think that maybe helped switch something a bit in my mind, because it's when I got back to my bed in the ceremony space and was going to start writing, and then this is when Daniel, my very good friend Daniel, who I'm very glad to have found at this retreat, that's one of the most one of the things that I'm the most grateful for meeting Daniel. And in this moment he was sat there meditating with a candle, and I was just watching him and just seeing him sort of just it started to dissolve this negativity, and I just had this like outpouring of love for him. I just was just admiring him as a person, just sort of sat there thinking, like, you absolute wonderful person, just all this love pouring out. And that's when my experience started to come uphill a bit, when I started to feel this love for other people, like when I was able to recognise this light in other people. That was like my steps up from this low point. And you were also one of these people when you walked past, and I was like, can I give you a hug? And then we had this nice moment, and that was another sort of moment of just like pure appreciation and love and admiration. And then the same with Jared as well later in the evening, and like you guys really just sort of helped, and this is the support that I'm talking about, and I'm grateful for. Like, this place just had the right support, the right people in the right times, in the right moments, just to lift me out of these dark places. And so ceremony 3 finished on a very loving note. I was just so thankful. I was filled with so much gratitude, and it was pure gratitude like I've never experienced before. It wasn't gratitude for anything selfish, it was just gratitude for things and people beyond my control. It was just a pure gratitude for life, for love, for other people's presence. And yeah, that was a really nice way to end day 3. After the dark moments, it ended on a lighter moment, and there still wasn't the resolution. There was still a knowing that I'd been blinded, and but the first step to becoming unblinded was to recognise the light in other people, and that's where it happened. And do you want me to just progress through the whole?
Then we had the day 4. Day 4 is the rest day, and then the ceremony 4 on day 5 is a day ceremony. Yeah. So how was that different, and how did that go?
Yeah, this was another interesting one. I mean, it had its own sort of challenges anyway, and this one was, for me, it was a short experience. The medicine kicked in faster than it usually did, and it ended faster than it usually did, and I didn't drink a second cup. And this one really sort of just revealed one thing to me, and it was a very important thing, and it was It was a realization of self-hatred, which is like a something I'd never even said out loud before. Like why would I hate myself? Like it was just like a weird, even just a weird combination of words that like almost shouldn't be put together. And as I was meditating into the experience, I was again observing the mind and just watching where it was going. And then it became apparent that the mind was polarized into two opposing forces almost, or regions. And there was this one aspect that I would consider me, or my voice, which is the one that is the one that owns all of the qualities and attributes that I consider to be mine, so the positive things. And then there was this other voice, this sort of dark shadow side, that was the personality or the manifestation of all of these qualities and attributes that I would reject, that I wouldn't want to be associated with. And one of these was hatred, like self-hatred. And it became apparent because I was just observing this voice, and it was autonomous. I guess this is what these people in psychology mean when they refer to like an autonomous psychic complex. It was like I was watching somebody else, as if I was watching a movie, someone just go on a monologue. Like I wasn't controlling it, I was just allowing it to just express itself, and it was just expressing itself in just pure hatred and pure negativity. Like things like, I hate this rotting body, I hate this stupid flesh, and I hate this, just everything you could think of was preceded by hatred. There was no positivity, there was no light, there was no appreciation or gratitude. It was just a voice of pure darkness, it was devoid of any love or any compassion or self-care, and it's like, this is the darkness that has been inside me, this shadow side that has been tormenting me, and this just to observe this was quite shocking. It was like, oh my God, this is quite alarming, this is quite worrying, like this is like mental illness, this is just the epitome of a sick mind, just this hatred for its own self, its own body. It was like it was this, it was like it was cancer. It was like it was, in every sense of the word, just this destructive thing that destroys its own host, like this toxicity of the mind. And so it was really alarming, but I was also, thankfully in the moment, I was grateful that it had been revealed to me and discovered. And there was a moment then of realizing one of the things that had sort of tormented me and troubled me over the years was this sort of hypochondria that had developed, like this conviction that there was something wrong with me, like physically, like this sickness, and like there was sort of like strange pains in the chest, but that would kind of move around, so it was kind of a weird thing. Went to the doctors and stuff, and there was no real resolution. And so this is something that had troubled me for a while. And then there was this moment of realization that there was this alien inside me, this thing that was completely foreign, completely alien to me, like the complete other, the thing that I was not, that I was completely unaware of. And this thing was my own negative emotions that I'd become so detached from, and I had made so unconscious that I didn't even know they existed, to the point where I was mistaking it for some sort of physical illness, or some sort of demon, or some sort of negative energy, or just something inside my body that shouldn't be there. And it sort of became so clear in that moment that my spiritual path up until that point had been so flawed, because I'd been trying to kill this thing. I'd been trying to like banish this darkness, this entity, like, and that's just making the problem worse. That's just pushing it further away and increasing the tension between these two opposites. And it was like I was trying to kill a part of myself. It's like if you get confused and don't realise this is your hand and you're trying to cut it off, it's just kind of, it's ridiculous. And that's exactly what I've been doing for so long, in like meditation, in contemplation, in everything. I've just been trying to do that for like 2 years straight, probably every day. And so it's just created this like inner tension, just this torment, and this inner torment that's sort of just been driving me insane. And realising this, once I'd identified what it was, then the medicine was helping me to purge it, and I was sick, like physically sick, purged, and it's like I just became lighter. I became so much lighter, like I got rid of so much darkness and negativity that had been haunting my presence for so long. And after I'd purged, Daniel sort of came over and he was like, bro, what's just happened? Like, you look completely different. Your energy's changed. Your eyes have changed. And I felt so much different. I felt joy, and I felt, yeah, I felt a way that I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Like, just this.
Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, I feel, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot to integrate and there's a lot to process, but I feel that way. I feel that I've released so much negativity, and I feel that this is just the beginning of a journey into, like, I've managed to brush away cobwebs, but they will continue to accumulate with life, and I'll need to continue the housework, so to speak. And
that's a very rational way of seeing it, not just like a one-time thing.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
will forever make you amazing.
Exactly. Because I think I've fallen into that trap before. Like, okay, ayahuasca, it's going to be like a snap enlightenment moment, and then you're done, and you can hang your coat up and whatever else. And so that was a really sort of really powerful moment. That was a really, I mean, I'm just so grateful. I just couldn't even imagine that this sort of linear progression could happen. Like, it was not, don't get me wrong, it was tough, it was hard work, but it was completely manageable. It was completely, and I don't want to tempt fate, and it's not that I'm saying that I can handle ayahuasca. I'm just saying that it gave me an experience that it knew I could manage, and it knew I could process, and it knew I could connect the dots. Like, it's like the week was a ladder, and every sort of day was another step up that, another rung up the ladder, and
step 5.
Yeah, step 5. Step 5 was the one that allowed me to poke my head out of the cave or the hole or wherever I'd been hidden for all this time. And yeah, I mean, step 5 is ceremony 5, the last day ceremony, well, the last ceremony as well. And I mean, this one I'm going to struggle with, because this one was really like, this was my life-changing moment that maybe really shouldn't even be put into words. And it was almost like, you know, in the word circle after the 4th ceremony, I was saying that I discovered that my mind was polarised into these two opposites, and I had this idea that they were opposing forces, and that the next step was their unity, which meant the dissolution of them both. It's the -1 and the +1 together, it's zilch. And it's almost like that process occurred. It was like this sort of critical mass had been reached, like these opposites had become so charged that this sort of like fusion process occurred. It was like this annihilation, and it was a self-annihilation. It was, and it's so fascinating how, like, I've been sort of educated in a very rational, scientific way, and that's been one of my drawbacks for most of my life, not being able to see past this veil of rationality. But it became so fascinating that what we see on the outside, like this sort of fusion that I've described, it seems to be what happens on the inside. And it's like, which one's a reflection of which, or are they the same? And so that was a really sort of, that's something I'm going to take away and consider. But it was this moment of self-annihilation. It was this moment of everything that I was in that moment, or up until that moment, all of my beliefs, thoughts, patterns. Oliver Scott, like me, as it was just the death of that. It was just a complete. It was just a complete death, and that's not to say that I've experienced a permanent ego death and I'm free of ego, because that's not the case. But that's okay, because this is something that I like. It's almost transformed my perception. I had this idea that it was this, you had to kill the ego and then you're enlightened. But that was not, that was a distorted way of looking at it. It was almost like it needed to be, my ego needed to be sort of smashed into pieces so it could then reconstruct itself in a more holistic or healthy way.
Yeah, complete ego death would be something terrible. Like, 'cause you need your ego to function.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be like just a blank slate.
You would be just part of a tree or something. Yeah, it's ego is what makes you go and work and make money and buy food and have relationships.
Yeah.
We need ego.
Yeah.
But this, what you say, is what happened to me at my last ceremony, which was for you was a night 3. I felt that I got dismantled for a short bit of time in that psychic realm where there's like those kind of tube-like, glistening, snake-like, black and white sort of levels moving against each other. I don't know what this place is, but when I go there, I get dismantled, and then I got reassembled, and whatever did not belong got removed, and this is what came out of me out of purge. I slept through all of the beginning of my ceremony. I just I started seeing things, and then I lost it because I got distracted and just decided to rest. I fell asleep, and I woke up in that dimension, which was also like scary, and I was like trying to let go and like do my best, but it's obviously that it feels very uncomfortable when your ego is being dissolved. But then after that, and after purging that, which was also uncomfortable but at the same time amazing, I came back into my body, and I just felt so comfortable. I felt that I was like complete, and there was nothing, no tension, and everything was really just nice and flowing, and I would just stretch out and just like, it's amazing. So
how things should be.
That's how it should be, and I think this kind of short maintenance ayahuasca experience for me every couple of months, it just keeps me human. But sorry, I distract you. So
no, it's of course very relevant, and it was a moment that really changed my life, and I think the thing that finally allowed this to happen, it's like my ego had been a closed loop, or maybe my mind, and I'm not, this is something I need to take away and contemplate, like the differentiation between mind and ego. But for argument's sake, let's say my mind had been a completely closed sphere, and it's full of all these ideas and belief systems, and I'd never been beyond my own mind, and because it was a closed system, it was therefore separate from everything else. So the outside world was exactly that. It was the outside world, and the mind was something that was inside, and it was different, and this separation existed. And whatever happened in that moment, there was this, that I was purging, and I just became aware of this other dimension or realm and it just felt so sacred. As I was being sick into this bucket, I was surrounded by, I mean, it's funny how you've got these sort of like dichotomies of like the sacred, but you're also being sick into a bucket, and it was so sacred, and I was just thanking these energies that were, it was like I was surrounded by like ancestors or indigenous people, and they were playing music and I could hear them, and they were helping me get out all these wrong ideas. Like I was just being sick, all this untruth, all these wrong notions and wrong concepts that had blinded me. And it was this moment where I became completely free of whatever it was that was entrapping me, whatever it was that was holding me back, these energies or whatever. I became completely free. There was this opening, and I was able to see for the first time beyond the mind. It was like the mind is this sphere, and the boundary of that sphere is like the end, like death. And so to move beyond that is almost like to move, it might sound grandiose, but to move beyond death, it was like move beyond the idea of death, because ultimately death is just an idea that I've got in my mind, and the idea of it being a fixed and final thing, again, that's just my idea. It's like, it's just something I held. And one of the ideas I also held was that I'd lost my dad forever, and that he was gone forever. And that concept of forever was so rigid and hard. And I just sort of smashed right through it. I just became aware of this other side of life. And it was like pure light. It just sort of got rid of all the fear, certainly the fear of death, because it was like, well, you're just passing over from one side to the other. So it's the unknown aspect that was scaring me. It was not knowing what was beyond the mind. And although I may not know what was beyond although I may not know what's beyond the mind, I know there is a beyond. Like, I know that there's something behind that veil. And this is what did it for me. This is what sort of allowed me to release this tension. It's like this tension was a conflict between my own idea of what reality is and my own ego. And they've got nowhere else to go, so they're just bouncing against each other. And it was like my concept of reality was just ripped completely open, and I was just tensing, like, and this energy was surging through me. It was like I was a filament, and just this energy was just illuminating me from the inside. It was really, really powerful stuff, and I asked for some advice off the Taita before the ceremony, and my question was...
Taita is a shaman in the London tradition.
And I asked for this advice, and my question was, I've been blinded by the darkness and I need to see. Can you advise me? And he said, you need to develop faith that the light exists within. You obviously have faith that the darkness exists within, which is how it has blinded you. And so you need that faith of the light. And it was very, very, very potent advice, and following the pattern of our previous experiences, there was another progression, and then I did find that light inside. I found this opening in the heart into this other dimension, and it wasn't out there. It was nothing from beyond. It was right in here. It was opening up this door in the heart, which allowed consciousness or awareness, whatever, to experience like liberation from the mind. It's like this trap door was opened, and all this energy was like, I'm going to go out this way instead. I found another route. I found the path of the heart instead of the path of the mind. And an idea, an image is just coming into my head, and it's almost like the head and mind is like a rubber glove, and you've got this fist that's trying to punch through it into the world, but it's like this, it's grabbing, but it's not actually, it can't get through the mind, because the mind is the glove. It can animate it, and it can make it move into all these shapes and concepts and thoughts and ideas, but ultimately you need the animating principle to retract back out of the glove and go out of another door. And that's what happened. It was like this energy found a different path, and that's my true beginning. This is the beginning of my path of the heart instead of the path of the mind. And I just became aware of how destructive the path of the mind is, and it just manifests in the world around us. Like,
yeah, this is a big problem in society at large. We focus a lot on the head and thinking and being smart, but we focus extremely little on our heart. And this is a problem I personally work on myself, like developing empathy and feeling for other people, and not just being, strategizing and scheming in your mind,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like
that was me 24/7.
Life is more than that, than just like planning everything and executing. It's
exactly.
Where in between planning and executing do you actually live your life, right? I'm guessing that would be in your heart.
And it's previously all been up here, and now I'm intending to find the right balance. And
okay, Oliver, let's wrap up this first session. It's sunny, and I see you're sweating.
Yeah, very, very hot.
And I need to go and buy some groceries as well.
Yeah, I hope I haven't rattled on too much to our
you did rattle on quite a lot,
guests.
but it was all very interesting and insightful. As I said, you do have this talent that you need to explore, and I hope hopefully this will be the beginning of you losing that fear of the camera, and then gradually getting better and finding your voice in the world, because a lot of people deserve to hear what you have to share. And this is only your beginning of your experience with those medicines and other modalities. So eventually you might be the voice that explains to people why this is valuable, and helps them to do it themselves as well. And you'll be that light in the dark. So
I can only hope so. Yeah.
Once again, thank you for coming to our retreat.
Cheers.
And hoping you're giving yourself in to us, to our Taita, and then coming out better on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you.